welcome everybody to the SRU podcast with me and my guy Will Royal. Sorry this week we didn't hit you with two of them because Will has something to announce.
Yep, get a good look around behind me. Starting next week, I'm going to be in a new apartment down in Meridian, Mississippi, a new job. But of course, this is still going to be happening. It's just going to be, pending on the job.
Yeah, and sorry we didn't get to have a guest this week for our picks. We have that ready next week. But to start off, we will review week one, and we had great games last week. We had a upset last week. Um, a lot of stuff happened in week one. For me, I would say it was a success for week one with all the events and all the things that happened, like ESPN messing up a few names on the on the graphics.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and Will saw that in person when I was in Memphis this weekend. But let me start with our HBCU game of last week. We have Jackson State versus FAMU, and it was a slaughter. Jackson State came ready to play. FAMU actually scored more points in week zero than they did in week one against Jackson State. And Coach Prime he's doing something good up there in Jackson, Mississippi.
Yeah, definitely. This is kind of what we expected when he brought in the number one recruit in the country. To be honest, I didn't watch most of this game, but I did see the score, and it's very simple to see that Jackson State is becoming a powerhouse in FCS. Even though it is HBCUs don't get into the playoffs, they do have the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta every year, and I think that they're going to represent the Southwest Conference, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. And actually, Shedeur Sanders, his first 17 passes were all completed.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is very incredible. I think he only had 3 balls dropped or something like that. But yeah, and he took his pads off, helmet off, and everything. Fourth quarter, he was in just his jersey and a nice little chain that he likes rocking when he's with Jackson State.
Yeah, but it's something we're probably going to be seeing throughout the year when it comes to Jackson State and their opponents.
Yeah, for sure. They actually have a game this week in Memphis, the Southern Heritage Classic versus Eddie George. Well, we won't be talking about that today, but we will keep y'all updated for next week if anything big happens. But our second game of last week that we highlighted and did a pick for was Arkansas versus Cincinnati.
How do you feel about that one, Bryce?
Yeah, as an Arkansas fan, I'm happy we won, but we lost technically because we lost. Breaking news: we just lost Jalen Catalon for the rest of the year with a torn muscle in his back, and it sucks because a lot of people had him being a second round pick for this year's draft, and I hope he heals up quickly because he's not supposed to play this next year, this year. But next year, if he decides to come back and try to get that first round pick instead of probably dropping this year just because of his injury, I hope he comes back healthy and ready to play next year.
Yeah. When it comes to Cincinnati, you can probably say this is their hangover from making the playoffs last year. They did lose a lot of key pieces, and it just didn't really show. It was a competitive game, but in the end, they lost. They're out of the top 25. Probably out of contention for a playoff repeat. But, it's their last year in the conference, too, before they go off to the Big Ten anyways.
Yeah.
Or not Big Ten, Big 12.
Yeah. It does suck for them. They will, honestly, I can see them winning the AAC this year because after week one, the AAC did not look that good conference-wise. But you know who didn't look that good that good last week?
Oregon.
Yeah.
That was ugly.
Yeah. It's like the Pac-12 did not come to play. They forgot it was week one or something because they got destroyed by Georgia. Georgia is looking like they actually not having a championship hangover. They're ready to win another one this year. I know Will might have something to say about it with Alabama,
we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But Georgia looked like the team that is going to be like that a scary team to play if you're playing them on their schedule. Not
Yeah.
only because they have Brock Bowers, who is probably the best tight end in the country, if not one of them. They have third string tight end Darnell Washington. Did you see that play? Like the hurdle?
Oh yeah, I did see that. It was it was crazy.
That they're producing tight ends like that, and that is very scary to
Yeah.
see.
Is Georgia
Um,
going to be tight end U?
who knows? But also mainly the fact that Bo Nix looks so out of his depth in Oregon so far. I know it's only week one, and they still have Pac-12 teams to play, but back in the SEC, he was god awful.
Yeah. He was he had some bright spots, but he wasn't that good honestly. And that wasn't the only Pac-12 team to lose because a team that a lot of people thought were going to make it to the playoffs this year lost week one. Utah lost to Florida, and AR-15 looks like he's legit a Heisman candidate this year. How do you feel about AR-15 this year?
It's only week one. I'm not jumping to conclusions yet. These are kind of things you just got to look into more towards the season.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened with Utah just crumbling at the last second like that. Because I was putting faith in Cam Rising like last week and building up to it. I think he's a really good quarterback, but I think their defense just kind of fell apart. They did lose Devin Lloyd this past year in the NFL draft, which
Yeah.
kind of helped out with that. But Utah, who was a favorite to win the Pac-12, who knows what's going to happen with that now? That's kind of a mad scramble.
Yeah.
And now Florida gets last left because they are now ahead of them in the top 25.
Yep. Now, and speaking of Florida teams crumbling, oh no, just teams crumbling in general at the end. Florida State versus LSU. We didn't talk about this. Well, yeah, we did mention this game, but the Brian Kelly era is not looking bright after week one. Just hey, maybe they should have just went for two. Honestly, for me, I would like to kick the field goal, go into overtime, and see who wins that way. But now that I look back at it, their kicker missed a field goal earlier in the game, and
Yeah.
they just like made a long drive to score and to probably win or to tie it up. Yeah, LSU. I'm happy because I don't like LSU and I don't like Brian Kelly. LSU is not looking that good after week one.
Nah, but shout out Mike Norvell, head coach of Florida State. That you gotta find because you gotta agree with me. That's been week one, but that's already for me game of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
All these other games are just finding the beat the second best game because as like run down the last 2 minutes. Florida State punts it. LSU muffs it. Florida State's at the goal line, fumbles. LSU 99-yard drive, no time left. Scores a touchdown. 1 second left. PAT blocked. Game over.
Yeah. I'm happy for Mike Norvell. Just because a lot of people wanted him out of there. We all remember the Florida State Twitter space where they were calling for Mike Norvell's head after losing Travis Hunter.
Yeah. And I was telling you this, but like their secondary towards that last drive of Florida State secondary just was not there. They kept giving up big plays. They let the tight end score get down to the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if Travis Hunter was there. Could have stopped them. Game would have been over.
Yeah.
But so a good quality win for Florida State. I think this is their first step into that rebuilding era.
Yeah.
Since Jimbo left, and I think
maybe they can make a push for the ACC this year. Who knows? Because Clemson, they actually had trouble with Georgia Tech, and everyone thought that they would beat them easily early, but they did end up beating them pretty well. But hey, ACC looking like it's wide open for the taking. Because a team that I thought would have a great season or maybe even make the playoffs, NC State. They what did they win the game? NC State versus ECU. Uh,
Yeah, it came down
yeah,
to
yeah.
a
It
last.
came to. Oh yeah, it
They
came.
barely won. It came
Yeah,
down to
they
the last
barely
like
won
field goal
that
missed
game.
by East Carolina.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so NC
Uh,
State was not looking good. Everyone thought that hey, this is their year to make the playoffs, make a claim for the best team in the ACC, and take out Clemson. And guess what? They're almost lost to ECU. And I actually saw something like the last few times NC State and ECU have played, it's been close games, but like it's ECU. ECU is probably one of the worst teams in the AAC. You can't be making a close game with that program.
yeah. Another game I thought was going to be, going to the next game. Another game I thought was actually be somewhat one-sided. Was kind of a dull-sided game. And that was Ohio State Notre Dame. It was like a very defensive game. Ohio State was playing without Jack Smith and Jigba for the most part.
Yeah.
We winning by like what 11, I think.
Yeah, it was a really good game. As a Notre Dame fan, seeing their new coach, I would be happy. Like he did a great job for being his first head coaching job at a huge program versus probably one of the best teams, top two teams in the nation, in my opinion. I actually think Ohio State's going to win it all this year, but the way that Notre Dame played is great. Them making the playoffs will be very hard just because they don't have a conference championship game at the end of the year. But I
Yeah,
wouldn't count them out just because they lost to Ohio State, and if they win out for the rest of the year, they could actually squeak in there.
yeah, no, I agree. They went out the rest because they're mostly playing ACC schools. They have their game with USC. I think realistically, like this is a if Notre Dame wins out, then I think they are that one team on the outside looking in for the playoff spot.
Yeah. Hey,
They have the
but
right pieces. They just need to, bounce back from that game. And
yeah, but we do have kind of news with the playoffs. It is getting expanded to 12 teams. I know a lot of teams are excited just because a lot of teams have been the outside looking in, like, hey, it's hard for us to go undefeated, but we still think that we can compete and actually attempt to win a national championship. I know Arkansas, it's harder for the SEC East, no SEC West because of the powerhouse that is Alabama to make it into the playoffs. But with the 12 game playoffs, I feel like we can make it easily, especially in the trajectory we're going with our program. But I know you don't have any complaints or anything like that.
it's all fun and games until Alabama becomes the first team to go 16-0. That's all I'm
Oh,
saying.
is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
I,
last game I'm going to talk about, probably the game, if you're a defensive fan, a game that you would love. Iowa, a team in the Big Ten, almost won the Big Ten last year versus South Dakota State, an FCS school. A final score of 7-3,
yeah, with
but
no
no
touchdown, no
touchdowns.
touchdowns. That's probably the craziest that. What we were like watching like highlights of that game when we were watching the games.
Yeah,
But this hadn't happened. Has it?
it's
Hasn't
not
it? It's like it's happened, but it's been like forever since it happened.
40,
This,
50 years, I think is what they were saying.
yeah, that's crazy. Like I was talking to Will about this when we were watching the highlights. We're like, hey, this reminds me of the Alabama LSU game back in what 2013, 14,
2010, 2012.
2012, yeah. When like what it was like only field goals was kicked.
Yeah,
And what was the
that
score?
was 2011 when they won 9-6 in overtime,
Yeah,
the 1-2 game.
yeah. That's crazy. Just because like you play when you watch a football game, you expect to be at least one touchdown, but it was no touchdowns, and one team had 7 points or above 7 points. But yeah, they had exactly 7 points with two safeties and a field goal. That's crazy.
Yep. And looking back at our projections we made, we went 6-1 because we picked the same teams.
Yeah, but oh yeah, we have to tell y'all this. There is a forfeit at the end of the year. where one of us has to buy the other team's apparel and sing the fight song, and we will post it on the channel. Will, I hope it's you, because I do not want to learn Alabama's fight song at
I
all.
don't really Arkansas.
You already know it. That's the thing.
I know I know the rhythm. I don't know the words.
Okay.
All right, we now can close the chapter of Week 1, 2022, and we're now looking ahead at Week 2. AP Bowl came out last Tuesday. The big surprise is Florida coming from unranked up to 12, jumping over Utah 13. Georgia and Ohio State flipped, so Georgia's now 2, Ohio State's 3. Oregon completely fell off after getting embarrassed, and Tennessee took their spot along with Florida. And then the two teams that fell off were Georgia and Cincinnati. What are your thoughts on this new top 25?
I honestly didn't expect Florida to be in the top 25 at all this year, and it looking like that they might even win the East in the SEC. I'm excited to see what happens there, and I'm excited to see what how Oregon is going to bounce back this year, and if they can bounce back. And I want to see if Tennessee can actually beat Alabama this year and beat Georgia and make it to the SEC championship. Even though I don't like Tennessee, I just want to see how far they can go.
Well, we'll talk more about Tennessee in a second when we do our Week 2 predictions. But the big return of this week is a quarterback that you have spoken highly praise of before, and a possible contender for the Davey O'Brien Award, and that is Wake Forest Sam Hartman.
Yes,
Found out last week. We didn't know how long he was going to be out for, but he's now coming back to play Vandy.
Yeah.
How many touchdowns has he thrown in the first quarter?
First quarter, I can see 2 or 3. Honestly.
It is Vandy, so
yeah. But Wake Forest, they're not no big program, but they have a great quarterback in Sam Hartman. A lot of people say he's going to be a first round pick, and probably even top 3 quarterbacks in the draft. I can't wait to see how he plays this year because I want him to do well. And from me watching him back when he was in high school on QB1, I think that was season 2 or season 1. I'm pretty sure it was season 1 though. But yeah, I can't wait to see how he plays this year. And now we can move over to a game that you can't wait for. Honestly, probably one of the biggest games of this week. Probably is the biggest game of the week. But Alabama versus Texas. How do you feel about this matchup, Will?
For those who don't know me that well, I grew up in a household of both teams. My dad went to Alabama. My mom went to Texas. I grew up a fan of both. It was a house divided in 2010 for the national championship. We know how that ended. But, as an Alabama graduate now, I can proudly say, horns down.
Yeah, and
But in all seriousness, though, this is the game that's been hyped up about all year. It sucks that it's an 11 o'clock game, but the upside is we do get to hear Gus Johnson on the call. That makes me happy. If you saw anything of Bama last week, even though they did play Utah State and shut them out, they did lose a lot of good pieces, this Alabama team, mostly in the receiver position. We did lose Mechie and Jameson Williams, but oh my God. Trayshawn Holden, Jermaine Burton, Ja'Cory Brooks. It's unstoppable. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs looked unreal. Bryce played amazing. Obviously, of course, coming from a biased person, but I mean, I'm not going to discredit Texas at all. Like, this is still a good program. I know they played Louisiana Monroe last week, but Quinn Ewers is still a good quarterback. Bijan Robinson, still in that talk for the Duke Walker. Opening line, or at least the line right now, is Bama minus 20. I think it's time that, I think Bama's going to cover. Yes. Is it going to be brutal? Slightly. But so? I think Bama, they're still on their revenge hunt from losing to Georgia. Bama, I'm taking them. No questions asked.
I'm definitely taking Alabama because I'm an Arkansas fan and, horns down. I live in Texas and can't wait to hear all the Texas fans complain about losing to Alabama. Even though I complained about last year when we lost by a freaking touchdown that wasn't a touchdown. Will, you're at that game. Was it a touchdown?
Um, Next game.
All right.
Next game is an SEC game of two ranked teams. Number 20 Kentucky traveling to the Swamp to take on number 12 Florida. I think it's in the Swamp. I don't remember. Um, these are two good quarterbacks, by the way. Anthony Richardson versus Will Levis, two possibly first round quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Florida is, I think, right now a 2.5, 3 point favorite. Looking at it, but I'm going to take Kentucky. I think Will Levis is going to have a really good drive towards the end, and the defense is going to hold them in the last 2-3 minutes. It's going to be a close, gritty game, but I think, and considering like this game, like Kentucky's only won twice in the last 30 years,
Yeah.
or something like that. But I think Kentucky is still like a solid team, and I think it's going to come down to a one possession game.
Well, I disagree with you.
Finally.
I'm taking Florida, and here's why. First of all, Will Levis likes mayonnaise in his coffee. I can't swing with that at all. That's disgusting. And Kentucky had problems with Miami of Ohio last week. So, and I like what I saw from Florida. I can see Florida winning this game. I can see them winning by probably 10 points. And I can see AR 15 building his Heisman resume, looking like he might be winning it this year. Don't think he will, but I would love to see him build his resume and make a good resume to at least go to the Heisman Awards. So next, we have the BYU. I don't know what's their mascot is. Cougars, yeah, the Cougs. Oh, that makes a lot of sense coming from yeah, the Cougars versus the Baylor Bears, and Baylor destroyed Albany last week. BYU, who did they play last week? I'm pretty South Florida. Yeah, they destroyed them. BYU has a tough schedule this year. They returned 20 starters, I'm pretty sure, from last year. I'm gonna take BYU just because they're Cougs. But hey, Will, who do you think that is going to win this game?
I'm going to take Baylor. I think this is the team that won the Big 12. They beat Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. This is a hot team, and I think Dave Aranda's done a great job turning that program around. I think Baylor's going to carry on that momentum, and I think I haven't looked at the line of this game, but I think Baylor is a lock for me.
So you're picking that Big 12 defense?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm taking Big 12 over Independence any day.
Well, they eventually will be in the same conference. Next year?
That is true.
Yeah. So this is a future game. A look in the future
of what to come.
Yeah. And now we have a rivalry on week 2 that happens just about every year. Iowa versus Iowa State. Who do you have?
God, this is like a game that Midwesterners probably love, but here in the South we don't care. You're talking about a team who played. Both these teams played FCS schools last week. Iowa State blew out Southeast Missouri State. Iowa, we already talked about that 7-3 win over South Dakota State.
Yeah.
But I still think Iowa's a better team. I think that Big Ten defense is going to slow down that high-powered offense of Iowa State. Because remember, this is Iowa State without Breece Hall and Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
So I think Iowa is a win.
Yeah, I'm going to take Iowa also just because the FCS team that they played is probably one of the best FCS teams. Both of the Dakotas, they would be in the FBS team if they had the population was bigger. But yeah, Iowa, their defense is good, and I just feel like last week's offensive struggles will be patched up this week, and they should win this game. just because defense wins championships. So next we have a game that was really good last year between these two teams. Pretty sure they have some type of history with coaching. I'm pretty sure Pitt's coach coached at Tennessee. What I'm pretty sure when Peyton Manning was there or something like that. But Tennessee versus Pitt, number 24 Tennessee versus 17 Pitt. I'm going to pick Tennessee because you can't go wrong with going with the SEC. And Hendon Hooker is looking good, and Tennessee is. I feel like Tennessee is one of the better SEC teams this year, especially on the East side. And I can't wait to see how good they can become this year and see if their new coach from last year is the real deal.
Yeah, these are two teams coming off of two separate games. What we saw last year, Tennessee played a Group of Five team in Ball State, blew them out easily. Pitt had to come in last minute to beat their big rival West Virginia. This is a Pitt team with transfer quarterback Keon Slovis, and obviously they're losing out on Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison. It was still a good game to watch, but it's not the same Pitt team. Also, you just can't bet against Tennessee, so I think this one is going to be just as close as people are saying it is going to be. Again, haven't seen the line. I probably should have looked at these lines before we started, but regardless, Tennessee I think is going to come out on top and move their way up the top 25 and actually make some noise in the SC East and possibly challenge Georgia and Alabama and all those teams.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not saying the challenge Alabama is going to be another blowout, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's about it for our picks. We finally picked some different teams this week, and yeah, it was the first week, and it was most of the games were surefires except for the one upset game we had.
Yeah.
Will, what do you have planned for this weekend?
Wake up early, watch Bama at 11, and then just coast the rest of the day knowing that Bama just got an easy win in Austin.
Yeah. For me, waking up, watching Arkansas. Then later, I'm driving down to Fort Worth, going to go hang with our buddy JP and go see Fort Worth University, or some people call it TCU, play Tarleton State, and I'm expecting there to be a slaughterhouse. But hey, who knows? I might video myself there a little bit, have a little vlog, and post it next week. So y'all look out for that if that happens.
We tried getting JP on this week, but he was a little preoccupied.
Yeah, we'd get him on here soon. But
yeah.
Thank y'all for watching. Like and comment down below. Turn the post notifications on, and see y'all next week with the SRU podcast.
Peace out.
Peace out.